So I was innocently looking up the connection between 5G and COVID 19, and I got totally sidetracked into the fascinating story of influenza, another viral infectious disease that hits us all the time, that COVID 19's been compared to again and again. And influenza gets its name going way back to like at least 1580, that is governed by the influence of the stars, you know, of extraterrestrial origin. So, what do they mean by that? I don't know. The sun is our major star, and this is what the people going back hundreds of years thought. Interesting thing about 1580 was when it was a year of high solar activity, and they had an epidemic of influenza. And so there's an 11-year cycle for influenza epidemics. There's also an 11-year cycle of solar activity. Are they connected? Probably. And there was a period between 1645 and 1715. It's called the Maunder Minimum. The sun was quiet. There was no aurora borealis. You know, it was chill. No sunspots. And during that time, there was no influenza epidemics. And then after in the 1700s, you know, the sun started acting up again, and boom, influenza. So that's where it gets its name. And so people kind of dismiss that right out of hand, but we've gone back and we see there is a connection. Do we know the mechanism for this connection? Because what this has great implications is that if a virus like influenza is influenced by electromagnetics, electrons, protons, ultraviolet radiation, gamma rays, that can have profound effects upon our human health. And it has for hundreds of years. So, the interesting thing is that we've had all these natural outbreaks, and they came on super quick. Boom. The thing about influenza, it is capricious and unpredictable, and then disappears. And so it's a mysterious. I mean, it's been studied so much, but there's still so much mystery around it. Things started getting really wonky, though, about 1889. 1889, huge influenza outbreak. What also happened in 1889? That's when they started stringing power lines all over the place because we were electrifying our society. But just a coincidence. And then there was the great Spanish flu of 1918. And that one's pretty mysterious too. Because influenza just pops up. It travels faster than a horse can gallop or a plane can fly nowadays. And in 1918, supposedly, I just read an article on it by esteemed National Institute virologist and evolutionist, saying that basically influenza, the Spanish flu, circulated around the world, didn't even make a blip on the morbidity of the society, and then in late 1918 exploded across the world. And some of the first places where it exploded was in the Navy Radio School and the Army Signal Corps. They had major outbreaks. And this was the time where radio became huge. Marconi was working, and he was always sick. And as a sidebar, you don't think electromagnetic radiation has an effect on people's health. Thomas Edison, 100 years ago, diabetes was super rare. Only super skinny people with certain problems got it. Now it's a common disease. Well, Thomas Edison got diabetes. Alexander Graham Bell, Mr. Telephone, diabetes. Marconi, I don't think he had diabetes, but he had 6 heart attacks. And bouts of suicidal depression, and his wife got jaundice, and their baby died. I mean, a lot of bad things happen around high voltage electrical. So that was 1918. And if you just fast forward, you see all sorts of strange outbreaks happening when they go live with certain cell phone systems. And so, is there a connection? Well, the mechanism, like, no one believes it. Like, no one believes epidemiology, even though it's like a real science. Statistics you can draw conclusions from statistics that are fairly reliable, but people still poo-poo epidemiology. They say, we don't know the mechanistic factor of how this actually works. Well, I got one paper I was looking up about the effect of geomagnetic radiation. The whole Earth, we live on a magnet, and we are bio-electromagnetic chemical beings. Solid state liquid crystal technology right here. And these guys are going into the cryptochrome proteins and how they are, photosensors for blue light, and they basically communicate through your entire body. And they're trying to really break it down and how this affects your you have circadian rhythms. Your whole body is rhythmic and goes in wave-like fashion. And it's influenced by the signaling by weak geomagnetic radiation. And so if weak geomagnetic radiation and solar radiation from a sun that's like, millions of miles away can affect influenza, can affect an infectious disease, well, why can't radio frequencies coming off our phones and microwaves coming off Musk's satellites blasting us down here on Earth with gigahertz level radiation? Is that going to affect the environment? Is that going to infect the microbiology of your body, the DNA, the gene expression? Because that's what it really comes down to. It's like your DNA is in every cell of your body. It's amazing. The only thing that makes it all work in coordination is that your body knows when to turn on and turn off your genes to express certain things to do different functions in your body. And if we start messing with that, well, things can happen, and it looks like that the simple solar radiation and earth radiation or earth fields have their own effect that we should really recognize and move forward and study the effects of everything else around us.